Since I worked hard to bring this video to you and to develop this technique, please consider tipping me through coffee. Thanks!
You! Yeah, you! Do you want to make a skin for Primal Carnage Extinction? Does the price of 3D coat drive you bonkers? Do you have an idea that must come out of your head before you explode? This tutorial is for you!
Sorry about that. Today, I'm going to show you how to make dinosaur skins in Blender. This is the best way to make the skins of your dreams for free! Here is what you need. Blender, Photoshop or Gimp, a drawing tablet with pressure sensitivity and up-to-date drivers installed, your desired dinosaur models in .fbx, your dinosaur's diffuse map, and last but certainly not least, and certainly not required much, is experience in traditional art because you only get one layer. One. Just one. If this is the first time you are making a skin, I highly recommend you do some folder arranging before you start your first project. What I have here is a separate folder for my Primal Carnage Extinction stuff. Within the said folder are the assets, the texture maps, and my custom projects. Each one of those projects are put into separate folders to keep it nice and clean in there. Before you start your project, create a new folder for it. The first thing is to have an idea of what skin you want to make. Think of something that would strike terror into your dino team's prey. Something that will forever give them nightmares if they are lucky enough to survive the attack. My hellish choice shall be a Siamese cat! Let's slap that coloration onto a Novoraptor for this tutorial because why the not? Next is to boot up that Blender. Pardon me, but we are not going to see if raptors will blend, thank you very much. You need to boot up this Blender. That's better. I will be assuming that you know how to control the camera in this program. If you don't, watch a video I have provided in the description below. Before you start, press 5 on your numpad. If you've got a laptop, hold down your FN key and wherever keypad number 5 is on that keyboard. If it ain't an option, you can go to User Preferences, Input, and look for the numpad emulation option, which will allow your number keys to work as the numpad. This new view you will be getting is called the orthographic view. This will help make painting on Blender a lot easier. Trust me. Delete everything from the viewport.
Headshot.
Go to File, Import, FBX, and then locate the dinosaur mesh you wish to paint on. When you find it, turn on manual orientations in the import options. Set forward to -Y forward and up to Z up. Then all you have to do is hit the Import FBX button on the right hand side of the address bar. Your dinosaur will have spines with balls sticking out. That is its skeletal rig. Since you won't be using it, expand the model's hierarchy and press the eye icon next to the line that says Root. This will hide the skeleton, but it will keep your model visible.
Random tip!
Remember our little friend, the numpad? Now is the time to get to know him better as he will help you along the way. The 1 key changes the view to a front view. The number 3 key swings the camera to the right side of the model. Number 7 brings it to the top view. Number 9 flips the camera to the other side of the model, like this. The 2, 4, 6, and 8 keys rotate the camera in increments.
And now,
back to the rest of the tutorial. On the upper right corner of the viewport are some lines. Click and drag them to the left to create a new panel. Within it, click the cube menu on the lower left corner and click the UV image editor. You should get this gray grid in here. Hit the plus new button and this pop-up should pop up. The accepted skin dimensions for all dinosaurs with the exception of the Arco is 512 by 512 pixels. Give your texture a name. Refrain from using spaces between words for technical reasons. For the color, pick the base of your skin. Your texture is now set up and ready to go.
But wait!
It's not applied to the model yet. In order to do that, you must enter edit mode in the viewport. You will see the UV map islands, but not your texture, in the UV image editor. As a little footnote, larger dinosaurs and tupas have 2 UV sets. I will show you how to apply those near the end of the video. To apply it, click the image icon left of the plus new button and then click on your texture. To see it working, click the circle icon next to the edit mode and then click texture. There is still more to do before it will fully work for texture painting. Click the red and white checkerboard tab on the right. Then press this new button. In the image section, press that paper icon and then click your texture. That will assign your texture to the model's material. Now it is time to get started on painting your model. Just enter texture paint mode in the viewport and paint mode in your UV image editor. From here on out, I will be sharing some texture painting tips in this program. If you want to apply solid shapes, change the maximum opacity to 1 and turn off pen pressure. As you can see, the Raptor's UV map allows it to be painted symmetrically. Spitters do not have that ability. I will show you how to fix that later. Always overlap the UV map edges. Leaving the seams visible like that will ruin your composition. Little spots on the island seams will show up, and they are difficult to paint over in the viewport. The edges of the UV image editor look like they were drawn in MS Paint, which is why this happens. To fix this issue, simply paint along the island edge without painting within the other islands. One way to blend is to switch to the other color, turn the pen pressure for opacity back on, and lower it. Keep applying the color until you are satisfied. Switch back to your other color and apply it to smooth out your faded colors. This technique is great for applying highlights and shadows, which are necessary to add some depth to your skin. I wanted to paint the mouth, but I don't want to mess up the work I did on the head already. What I can do is return to edit mode with a texture shading, click this icon in the editor after changing it to view mode, and start selecting the faces I wish to color. To select a bunch of faces all at once, I press the B key and drag a box over the faces. I am also holding down Control to select multiple faces and keep my previous selected faces selected. When I am done, I return to texture paint mode. I then click this icon to gray out the unselected faces. Those faces are protected from any brush strokes I make in the viewport. Blender has a fill tool. Upon selecting it, your colors will revert to the standard black and white. The strength, aka opacity, is set to 0.5. Remember to set it to 1 before you use the tool. Combining this with the face selection technique will help you lay down solid colors faster, but do remember to clean the edges when necessary. To deselect faces, I hold down the Shift key while clicking the faces or surrounding the faces with the box selection. To draw lines, I have opacity set to 1, turn off pressure sensitivity for opacity, and then turn it on for the brush size instead. It is better to have a large brush and stroke lightly than it is to use a smaller brush and press into your tablet. Pressing it in like that will shorten your tablet's overall lifespan. You can always turn off the selection limitation to color on unselected faces. The line edges appear raw. I will use a different tool to fix it, and that will be the smudge tool. The blur tool, like in Photoshop, doesn't work like it should, so don't even touch it. The strength is lowered and the pressure for it is turned on before I use it to smear away at the lines. Move it back and forth to blend. Before you get into some detailed work, find a spot that's far away from the UV islands. Using a brush with max opacity and pressure turned off, set up your color palette. Blender files and texture files are two separate things. When it's time to save, remember to save both of them before you close down. I lost hours of hard work by not saving my image.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Remember to save your work in the folder you made before you started. Here's a good trick for selecting many faces all at once with the box selection tool. As you can see, selecting this will be very tedious. A better way to select them all is to turn off the option that limits the selection to the faces you can see from a given point of view. I will combine the low opacity brush blending technique with the smudge tool set to 1 with pressure on to enhance my blending. Those darn seam spots are here again. Smudging them on the model doesn't seem to work, and painting UV map island edges will set me back. Oh yeah? I'll just smudge my edges outside of the UV map seam edge. Take that, seam spots! Do this every now and then, and reblend the model if needed. When working on limbs, only select one of them to prevent accidentally painting or blending over your other arm that also affects the one you're painting on. When you are finished, save your texture file and boot up Photoshop or Gimp. I will be using Photoshop in this tutorial. In Photoshop, open your texture and then open your Dino's diffuse map. Before you can use your diffuse map, it needs to be scaled down. In Photoshop, go to Image, Image Size, change the pixels to 512 by 512, and select the option Best for Reduction. Hit OK and it should be scaled down and still look good. Copy and paste it over your texture and close your diffuse map file without saving. Set the diffuse to overlay and then save your texture file to a PSD file. Save it again as a PNG and replace your texture's PNG file. Back in Blender, click the Image tab in the UV Image Editor and click Reload Image. Now you should be able to see what the skin looks like with the skin overlay on. Photoshop or Gimp can be used as a great tool to edit your skins. One reason is the use of adjustment layers. Every time you want to view the changes, save over your PNG file and reload it in Blender. If you need to make an edit on the skin itself that isn't an adjustment layer, do not paint over the overlay in Blender or on Photoshop. Create a new layer between your texture and your overlay and do your edits on that. Save over and reload the image again to see it in Blender. If you need to make edits in Blender, turn off the overlay in Photoshop, resave, and reload. When you bring it back to Photoshop, delete all of your layers except for the diffuse layer. Open the texture PNG file, copy and paste it into the Photoshop file, close the PNG without saving, and save your PSD file. When you are done, save the texture as a targa file without the diffuse layer turned on, and it's ready to be imported into the SDK, which will be for another day. As I mentioned before, some dinosaurs have two UV map sets. The Rex is one of them. To properly assign textures to each of the sets, go to the Materials tab and click on one of the listed materials. To select all of the assigned faces to that material, especially if the UV island sets overlap one another, press the Select button under the Materials list. Since I did not prepare a texture prior to doing this, I will be making a new one. After that, deselect with the A key and repeat this process with the other material. Normally, I would pick the same color. I will be using different ones for demonstration purposes. Don't forget to assign the textures to the model. You can freely paint on the model without worry, but remember that now you must switch back and forth between two textures if you wish to paint in the UV map editor. For Rex, you may not see its head UV map on the texture, however, it will still work. Don't forget to save both texture files as images before you work on them in Gimp or Photoshop. In those programs, create two separate PSD files for each texture. When you are done, save both textures as targa files. Spitters have an asymmetrical UV map setup. This means there won't be any symmetry when you try to paint on it. The fix is very simple. All you have to do is turn on X symmetry. The fact that it's asymmetrical unlocks more doors for some skin ideas no other dinosaur class can pull off. However, when you observe it with the overlay on, pay close attention to the details as they may appear off on the other side. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I will see you all next time! Bye.